Welcome, everybody. I'm Santi, the founder and CEO of Resparked, and today we have our first ever webinar. So, we've been doing a lot of things with Joanna. She's a wonderful artist from LA. She will introduce herself in a second, but this is going to be super exciting. We have a lot of things. We're going to learn a lot about engraving. And what I want to say is thank you for trusting us. Thank you for everything you do for the company and for the customers that are reigniting the creative spark. Joanna, welcome here, and please tell us about you and let's take it up.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Joanna Muñoz. I'm an LA-based lettering artist and illustrator. I'm also an educator and now a brand ambassador. So I've always wanted to try engraving, but I was too scared to buy all the tools. There were too many things to buy. I didn't know what to do. My friends were engraving and I didn't know how to get into it. So I'm really glad that I partnered with Respark because they have thought of everything. Their kits come with everything, and they really care about the customer experience. So ever since I've worked with them, I've made all sorts of fun projects, and I'm going to show you a few of them today, and then we'll dive into the rest of the presentation. So one of the coolest things I did were these Wicked mugs. So there's a green one and a pink one. I engraved some quotes from the movie. I don't know if you guys are big Wicked fans. So these are just camper mugs that you can get on Amazon. They're pretty simple to engrave on. You just kind of pull off a little bit of the paint, and it turned out really well. So we've got camper mugs. If you have any loose bottles around, you can tint your bottles and engrave on them. And this one I tinted, and it's got my matchsticks in here. But I don't know if you can see it. It says "You Are Magic," and it's a cute little matchstick holder. So that was another fun project that I did with Resparked. If you have friends that need birthday gifts, I did a candle. This is Sagittarius. This is my zodiac sign. So these are great gifts. You can customize candles and give them to friends and family. And if you have people who like to smoke or like to light candles with lighters, especially for guys' gifts. These are really cool. You can get lighters on Amazon and engrave initials on those. And a few other things that I have for the ladies. Nice little compact mirror. So these are great. You can also get really fancy ones and get like Chanel mirrors, but this is a really fun project. This is one of my first. And I'll show you how to tint this later on using some rub and buff. But those are some of the favorite projects that I've done with Resparked. But for now, I'm going to share a quick presentation. We're going to go over some important things about using the tool, some tips and tricks that I have picked up since I started using the customizer, and then we'll be on our way. First of all, I know you guys have a lot of things you could be doing with your time, but you're here at this workshop, Start Engraving with Confidence. This is beginner friendly, and I know I speak for Resparked as well when I say thank you so much for being here with us. What this is about, it's beginner friendly. It's designed to help you confidently get started with a customizer engraving tool. We'll walk through the basics step by step so you can create engravings with ease. I'll also share the tips and common mistakes to avoid to get a more polished look. And what we'll create together later on in the second half of this workshop. By the end of the workshop, you'll complete your own personalized engraved piece and have the confidence you need to keep creating on your own. So a little bit about me. I love engraving because the customizer turns everyday objects into something meaningful and unique. When I started with Resparked in August. So I have had plenty of time to learn through trial and error and a lot of curiosity. My style is playful and clean. I have a focus on lettering and illustrative details, as you've seen in some of the examples. And today I'm going to help you with navigating the customizer and building your creative confidence. So getting started. A few of the tools that I have actually used and I recommend, it's not necessary, but these are great for a good engraving experience. So obviously the customizer for engraving, safety glasses to keep dust out of your eyes, a face mask prevents the inhalation of materials when you're engraving. Stencils are really helpful. They're great for beginners. You can find stencil sets at Resparked, and I'm going to show you some new ones that they came out with that aren't announced yet. So you guys are going to get a sneak peek at some of the cool new stuff that they have. A pencil or marker for sketching designs in white or black. Acrylic markers work best, and I'll show you the ones that I use. A small brush for cleaning the surface area during and after engraving, and props to elevate your hand or object to make engraving easier. I like to use a wrist pillow, or you can use a towel. And then rub and buff, Q-tips, and a paper towel to add gold, silver, or rose gold to your engravings, like I did with the compact mirror that I showed you guys. Best practices. So these are the things that are going to help you with your engraving experience. Each kit comes with a user manual. You want to double check that and see which material and bits go together. You want to work slow and steady. I know it can be really exciting to work on a project, but slow and steady wins the race when it comes to engraving. So think about using light pressure when you're engraving any of the objects, and short, confident strokes are best. And I'll walk you through that when we're doing our project later. You want to take your time. Again, there's no need to rush. I like to pause, maybe dust off my project, see how things are going, and assess my work. I know when I first started, and especially now, I'm like a professional lettering artist, but I still get caught in like tunnel vision. So it's good to like take a break, kind of stretch your fingers, maybe take a sip of water, come back and look at your progress without getting too tunnel visiony with your stuff. And then finally, refine later. So I like to do an initial pass on a design and then go back and refine details. Again, avoiding the whole tunnel vision thing. Next up, a few tips that I recommend. The ball bit for engraving is the most versatile. It literally looks like a ball, and I'll show you that when we're engraving. So if you're unsure of which bit to use, you want to start there. Think of the instruction manual as a guide and adjust your speed as needed. So when I show you the instruction manual, it'll say this piece of material goes with this ball bit at this speed. Once you start getting comfortable, it's okay to change the speed if you feel more confident with what you're doing. So again, think of the instruction manual as a guide and then adjust it based on your confidence and the materials that you're using. You want to let the customizer do the work for you rather than like digging into your object, especially with wood. You want to be careful. So the customizer already vibrates at certain speeds, and you want to just gently let the customizer do the work for you rather than digging into your pieces. A few more tips. It's all about trial and error. It's okay to make mistakes. Most of them can be corrected, and if not, it's part of the process. So don't be afraid to experiment. If engraving is taking forever with the bit that you're using, especially if you've been using them for a long time, they might have just been worn down over the course of using them. So you may have a dull one. And if you switch them out, try a different one, you can probably see that the engraving is a little bit easier. So that's one thing that I recently learned. I was using a ball bit that I've been using since day one, and I switched it out, and it was like a whole new experience with engraving. And then finally, you can find more tutorials. There's a QR code on the user manual that you can scan and find tutorials on Resparked's website and also on their YouTube channel. So I have produced some videos for Resparked on their YouTube channel that does more deep dive tutorials. So definitely check that out if you want some inspiration or you want to look up other projects to try. Remember that this is all about your creativity. So go at your own pace and do what's comfortable. The more you practice, the better you'll get. And most of all, have fun. And these are the two designs that you guys should have gotten in your email. I'm going to show you how you would put this on the glass jar that we have or glass cup that you have for this project. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like to freehand. So if you have one of these designs that you picked out, or you can use both today, but those are there for you. And then now we're going to start creating and working on our project. But before we do that, if you guys have questions, we can answer some Q&A questions real quick. So do we have any questions that we can answer? I know that was a lot, but we'll learn more as we work through our project together.
The question is if there are any certain tips better for different bits, better for different purposes or types of lines?
Ooh, that is a great question. So I'm not going to lie, the ball bit is my favorite bit to use. So I kind of err on the side of using that one. And then depending on the material, let me see if I have anything here. Oh, here's a good one. But depending on the material, the ball bit will do like a first pass. And then if the material is pretty thick, I'll switch bits and I'll show you the ones that I've leaned on to kind of like dig a little bit deeper in the line. So once I have the initial etching done, I play around with the other bits and see which ones can dig a little deeper. But again, it's trial and error. I have my favorites, and once I find a favorite, I kind of don't really try anything else. But that's just kind of how I am. I hope that answered your question. Are there more
Great.
questions?
Yes, we have another question. How do I know which bit to choose for glass or wood? I have the box with 30 bits.
Oh, nice. That one is a great question. So this is the customizer engraving pens. This one has the 30 bits, and in it you should have your quick guide. And that I'm the kind of person, I don't necessarily read all these things, but they are there for a reason. So in there, you should have a customizer user manual. And when you flip through, there's this page, which once I realized that I actually should read the manual, this was so helpful. And even now I still refer to it. So it has the material that you're engraving, and then it shows you which bits to use. It shows you the shape of the bits, and then it also shows you the speed. So the first one says wood has a speed of 2, and then you can use the pointy bit, the ball bit. They have specific names. They have specific names on here. The ball bit, the pointy tip, and the square tip. And then also on this manual, you can see which ones not to use. So anything in red with the little X probably shouldn't be used for that specific material. And so this is great. If you're not sure, always refer to this. Obviously, Respark did all the research as to what works best. For the most part, looking at this, it says the ball bit you can use for everything. So I would always start with that. And depending on what you're engraving and how big the material is. So this, if you guys don't have this, this is the 30 bit. You can see all the different shapes. So I'm a little bit type A and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So I like to use the smallest bit first because I know I can expand the lines and go bigger. And so you can see the difference between the smallest bit there and then the largest bit. So for me, I probably start with like number 2 or maybe number 2. That's a good like medium small size. And so that way I can kind of test the lines without committing to like a really big line that I can't go back and fix. If you choose a smaller bit and you want to make the line bigger, then you can go that way. But if you choose a larger bit and you want to make the line smaller, you can't really fix that issue. So my recommendation is start smaller first and then expand out from there. So I hope that helps.
That's great. I'm seeing that there is a repeated question here around protection, especially working with glass. How do you set your workspace?
Okay, let me set this stuff aside. I have something fun to show you because I get to kind of give you guys a sneak peek at something that Resparked has been working on that hasn't launched yet, but this is super cool. I'm going to move this. We're going to adjust this later because I really want to show this to you guys. So they came up with an engraving safety set. Now, mind you, you can buy safety tools online. So this is my original safety kit. This, just a pair of safety goggles. Guys, they're not cute. They're not supposed to be cute, but they protect your eyes from like dust at the top and on the sides. This is great. You don't want particles in your eyes, like safety first. Eyes are important. You can't get those back. So goggles always. And then I went to the dollar store and I bought makeup brushes. So this is actually the brush I use for dusting off materials. So you don't have to be too fancy with your safety tools. But the cool thing is they came up with this engraving safety set. I actually asked them before this call if I could share this with you guys. And then they said it wasn't launched yet, but now you guys get to see. So a super cute package. And then if you open it up, there's a face mask. It also comes with gloves, either nitrate gloves, so those black rubber gloves, the size medium, which is perfect for me. It has a fancier brush than the one I bought, so I'd be super excited to use that. That's for dusting stuff off. And then a safety goggles with its own little carrier pouch, which I didn't even get from my safety goggles. Oh, and these are nice. It's got nice Respark branding on the side. There's a bigger panel for safety, and it's a wider lens. The ones I bought were sitting on my cheeks, so this is more comfortable. It's just sitting on my bridge and not like resting on my cheeks. So nice clear vision. I actually really like these. So these are great. And then the last thing in this kit is this guy. So this guy is great. It's got some measurements on here, so you can lay this down, put your object on, and then see your designs and measure stuff out. So this is great also for like laying stuff down and maybe catching dust so that it doesn't get all over your table. And then everything fits in this cute little pouch. So get excited because I did not know they had this, and that should be launching soon. Any other questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I think we have a last one. Do you usually draw the design you want to make on the surface first and then engrave it, or what's worked best for you?
So I kind of have a cheat code because I've been doing this for a very long time. I freehand a lot of stuff. I'm a lettering artist, so I already know, and an illustrator, so I already know in my head what something should look like. And so it's easy for me to just kind of guesstimate how things should be. When I have done projects for Resparked, so specifically these mugs, especially because it's such a long quote, I will go in first, and even though I know what it needs to look like in my head, I'll go in with a chalk pencil. This is actually, it's good for paper, glass, plastic, and metal. It's water soluble, so you can draw on anything and then just kind of wipe it off. So I'll go in and lightly sketch out my design just so I make sure I know what I'm doing. If I were to freehand this, it'd be lopsided and all over the place, and like the angles would be incorrect. So it's always good to sketch, and that's just inherent in how I draw things because I'm an illustrator. If you have something dark, you want a lighter pencil. If you have something light or clear, you want something dark. So you can use, I like to use a micron pen. This is a Sakura Pigma micron pen. These are great for lettering on anything or illustrating on anything. Also recommend using an acrylic marker. This is a Posca marker. It doesn't have to be these brands. You can always test out. So let's say you have a Sharpie and you're sketching on glass, maybe the Sharpie will work. And then you can take it off with a paper towel or with acetone or nail polish remover. It kind of just depends on what materials you have. Take my recommendations with a grain of salt. It is trial and error. I've definitely used things and had to take a little bit longer to get the marker or pencil off. So trial and error. It's about experimentation. You can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong. And if you do, it's okay. I promise. I've messed up many, many times. I've engraved things incorrectly. I've misspelled things. It's okay. So that's freehand. The other cool thing is that they have stencil kits. They have stencils online on the Respark website. And again, I didn't know they had this, so I saw these. They have a set of 40 stencils. So there's letters, there's animals and shapes, cars, flowers, literally everything that you can probably think of. There's holiday stuff in here. Definitely grab one of these stencils. It'll make life way easier. You don't have to think about anything. Again, I would just put this down and then trace over it with your pencil or pen. So do whatever you feel is comfortable. Just because I do something a certain way doesn't mean that you have to.
Great, yeah. You have to experiment.
Perfect.
That's the only way to learn.
Yes.
Okay, I think we can start engraving.
Great.
Guys, if you have any other question, please put it on the chat box
Yeah.
and we'll be like responding. I give you the lead, Joanna. Thank you for
Perfect.
answering all the questions.
Of course, yes. Please put in the chat because while I'm engraving, my head's going to be down, so I can't see what's going on in the chat, but we will answer your questions later. Okay, so I did talk about a pillow. This is a wrist pillow. I use this for doing calligraphy and live lettering events. Also great for obviously using a mouse. That's actually what it's made for. But this is great for kind of resting your object. Sometimes when your object is on a desk, it'll be a little bit slippery. So you can use these or a towel for resting your wrist so that your wrist is kind of the same height as your object, or resting your object so that your object doesn't move. Again, not necessary. It's one of those trial and error things. I don't always use it, but if my hand is tired or the object's just being a little bit challenging, then I will use this. So I have my designs. You should have received this pretty little PDF that I made. I'm just going to straighten this out. This is one of the joys of being in a live workshop. Okay. I'm going to make sure you guys can see everything. So this is the PDF that I sent you guys. You can pick one or both of the designs. And here's my jar. So what you could do, if I were to use our sample designs, you would take it, put it inside of your jar, and tape it where you want it so that it stays still. So you could do one on this side for our little travel fund, and then you can tape the palm tree on the other side and engrave it that way, or you can compose it together. You can have the palm tree and travel fund. But because this is a live workshop and I want to demo something cool, I'm going to show you what it's like to kind of letter something freehand. So I took my white pencil and you can see that I sketched out my script lettering. I like drawing in script. So it says travel fund. So I have a rough idea of where things are. And I will say that when you engrave and your hand kind of wipes the glass, it will kind of erase what you've written, but that's okay. That's why you have a pencil. You can go back in and sketch something again. Or if I was smarter, I would have used the acrylic marker, but we're going to use the pencil because it's a little bit easier to clean up. So you can see it lightly says travel fund and my favorite lettering. And so before we get started, I'm just going to set things up. So I have my customizer. It's fully charged. So if I turn it on by hitting the button, I chose the second bit that I had pointed out. So it's the ball bit, the round one. So it's that guy. He's cute and little. He's not small, so small that I probably will take twice as long to engrave, and not so large that I'll get stressed out if I make a mistake and I can't correct it. So I like to start with this guy. I'm going to set that aside. I have my lettering. I can mostly see it. But again, it's okay because I'm okay freehanding it. So again, get in the habit of doing this. Before I do anything, we're going to check our user manual one last time. There's also a quick guide. So you can see here it says how to set up. And then on the back, it'll tell you some of the basic materials. So it says metal, wood, acrylic, and leather. These are for the sample materials. And since we're engraving on glass, I'm going to open up this guy, fine glass, speed of 1, and then I can use the pointy bit, the flame tip, or the ball tip. Again, ball tip is my favorite, and I can't use the carbide burr, so we're not going to do that. So I'm going to use the ball bit for this one at a speed of 1. And that's why it's good to refer to the user manual. So, and I'm going to set it to a speed of 1. So we're going to hit it 3, 2, and 1. So you can see, you can hear the difference in the speed. And then we're just going to go. There's no like slowly diving into it. What I like to do is kind of, I can see where I started my lettering. I kind of just do a little pass just to see what it feels like, make sure it's connecting, see how hard I have to press. And then that feels pretty good. So I'm just gonna go. And this is a brand new, customized and a brand new ball bit. So it's actually engraving really well. A few things when you're drawing curves, and this is a lettering / illustration tip for digital lettering as well as this stuff. When you're drawing curves, you want to draw them towards you. And when you're drawing straight lines, you want to push away from you. So that means I'm drawing a curve. I should, in my best interest, draw the curve towards me. And I'm also okay doing this just a little bit different. So I'm going to turn my jar. What you don't want to do is like feel compelled to twist your hand and like follow the line. Turn your jar if you need to make your life easier. And I'm going in short strokes because I can feel the customizer bouncing. So I'm just going to take my time. I'm also nervous because it's a live workshop. So I'm just going to take my time. Just go a little bit at a time. Remember, we're using the smallest bit. So I can go back and clean up these lines later. And so now this is kind of like a curved line. I'm just going to pull it towards me, testing to see how far I can go while still making a confident line. I went short strokes because it's a curve. Now I'm just pulling it a little bit longer because it's more of a straightish line. And now I'm used to the customizer, so I can tell how much pressure I need to use and how quickly I can go. If I go too quick, the line starts to move, so I need to slow back down. Okay, pretty good first pass. It's a little wonky. That's okay. We can go back. So this is the part, if I were to do this for one of the first times, I would take my brush, and because it's already here, I'm just going to use my older brush and just dust it off a little bit so I can see the lines. Not bad. You can see where I might have picked up the engraver. So it's got a little bit of gaps, and then we'll go back in and fix that. But I just kind of want to see if what I'm doing is feeling pretty good. You can kind of see a little bit. You can see here, you can tell where I have a confidence stroke and when I'm maybe like second guessing myself, but that's okay. That's why we have the smaller bit. We're going to go back in and clean things up later. So I'm just going to keep going. I actually really like engraving towards me. Going away from me is a little bit challenging. So now with ours curving this way, so I'm going to rotate. So if you guys are using the designs that we sent out, you're basically going to be doing the same thing. Just follow the design, kind of like tracing it on the glass. My pencil has disappeared, so I'm kind of just eyeballing this now, which is okay. So you can hear the difference between it's too light pressure, and you can maybe see that the engraver is bouncing a bit on the glass. If I apply more pressure, so think like confident stroke, you can hear the difference with it bouncing low and engraving a little bit more. So this is all about being comfortable with the pressure, with your skill set. Again, the more you do this, the more you practice, the easier it'll get. So we got our first word, travel. Also, I'm glad I took a break because I forgot what I was writing and I almost wrote like trust because I wasn't paying attention. So I went back in, made that an A, and you can see maybe a little bit. It's very bouncy right now, but this is a good base layer. And then because I have now smudged the rest of it, I'm going to use my chalk pencil. I'm just going to go in and make sure I can see the rest of my design. So I'm doing this freehand because I have been a lettering artist since 2013. And I generally use the same style of lettering. So I kind of know the same angles and definitely the way the letter should look. But if you guys aren't as comfortable with freehanding, that's okay. That's why we have the printouts. Great. And now we'll start on our second one, leaving our speed to 1 and going on. And you can see I stopped there because I'm just going to go ahead and connect it this way because it's going to be harder for me to go this way. So I'm going to do what feels comfortable. And also, you want to hold the customizer however you feel comfortable holding a pencil, and do, again, whatever is most comfortable for you. Because what works for me might not work for you. And that's okay. For me, the way I like to do things, this is just our base layer, and we'll go back in, kind of clean things up and make it a little bit prettier. The great thing about these customizers is that, especially if you have the one with the 30-bit, you can go in and play around with the different shapes, the different types of bits, and see what kind of marks they make. I will say, depending on the material, sometimes it does get bouncy and it can flip, and that's okay. That might be, the coating on the glass, but the engraver's doing a great job of just taking off that initial layer of product. And you'll know you're giving enough pressure if the coloring changes. So I know I'm taking off layers because one, it's getting dusty, and two, it's turning a little bit brighter white. I'm gonna have these stars, so click, and they're straight lines. So I'm gonna here's a good example. I turn my jar and I applied the same pressure, but it's not engraving. So I just kind of have to maybe tilt my customizer to get it past that initial coating of glass, and maybe it's just the way I held it, because now it's engraving pretty easily. Slow and steady. And I don't know if you can tell, but now my stroke lines are a little more confident. They're less bouncy. We've been engraving now for a few minutes, so I'm comfortable with how this jar feels. And we're gonna dust this off because I don't want all this dust on my hand. And obviously, being a more well-ventilated area, that way you don't inhale the stuff. A towel is a good thing to have. I did not think to bring one with me, so we'll clean that off later. And then our last jar here on this side. These projects are great for a nice relaxing Sunday, do yourself project. I was always that kid that liked to make stuff for friends and family or for myself. I like to reuse things around the house instead of throwing them away. So this actually was I think it was a pickle jar. And I just happened to save it. It initially had all my cough drops in it, but I thought it'd be the perfect jar for a travel farm. Okay, so now we've got our initial pass. I'm not going to be precious. I'm going to just take my hand and rub that down. And you can see, oh, sorry, there we go. So this is the initial pass. You can see it's thicker down here. And I was a little bit nervous in the beginning, so you can tell the lines are a little bit nervous up here, and they become a little bit more confident. So now that we have our base illustration, we still have more time. So I'm going to go back in, and let's pick a different one. So we have all these different shapes to try out. And I'm actually going to show you, I'm going to show you what it's like to use maybe like a bigger ball bit. So we'll go up to the third one and try that one. So we want to, make sure it's off. Put this one back in the same spot. I'm a little OCD, so I like to put them back where they were initially. That way it's easy to find. All the round ones are here, and then they kind of are just grouped together. So this is now the third one. We use the second one. So we're going to see what this looks like. Because honestly, I have no idea. So I'm going to start with the T because that needs the most work. So back to 1, and we're going to go slow again. Oh yeah, this is way better. This is going to hide all of those little lines that I'll have. There we go. So I noticed when I was engraving here, it wasn't grabbing onto the material. I almost changed out the bit, but when I started engraving here, you can see it's taking some material off. So that might just be a coating issue. So we'll go back in and try that again in a little bit. I just want to clean this up, and you can see now it's thicker on this side. What you could do if you want to be fancy, we could just make the bottom parts thicker and kind of make like a heavyweight script. That's a tutorial for another day. But for now, we'll just go back in and make everything the same size. So when I'm folding the customizer and I have the intention of making like a longer line, I just kind of brace myself a little bit because I know it's going to bounce. I just hold on to the customizer and try and steady my hands and just lightly drag it across the glass. We're going to try this part again because it didn't engrave earlier. And you can hear the difference. It sounds like it's just bouncing off the glass. So maybe I just need to play around with it. Oh, there we go. Now it's engraving. And I know to you guys, it looks like I'm just engraving the same thing over and over again. But what I'm actually doing is trying to clean up the edges. So that's with a bigger ball bit. It already looks smoother. And then if I were to go back in and clean it up, I could go back in with my smaller bit and clean that up. But I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of the letters. But I actually don't think I need to try any of the other shapes. This is working really well. And now that I know how this feels, my strokes are a lot more confident. It also helps that it's a bigger bit. So there's more bit grabbing onto the glass and engraving. And again, remember I said you want to take your time and also take a break, because right now in this part it gets really dusty, and if I wasn't really paying attention I couldn't see what I was doing because all that dust was covering up my lines and my engraving. So every so often you want to just kind of take a break, maybe dust it off. Look how much nicer that is, how much cleaner it is.
One question. We have a question in the chat. So, has the glass dust ever irritated your hands while working? Or should we wear a nitrile glove, maybe?
If you are sensitive or you think you might be, I would always err on the side of safety. So yes to nitrate gloves. I haven't noticed any issues. I do know that when I've been engraving for a long time, just because of the vibration, and sometimes I have like a death grip on my customizer, this will start to get just, a little bit tired. So that's the only part of my hand. It also happens when I use a pencil or marker. It's just fatigue. So that's the only part that really bothers me. But as far as like dust and particles, this doesn't. I'm also in a well ventilated room, and I always clean up my work area when I'm done. So if you feel like if you're a person who's sensitive to that sort of thing, I would always err on the side of just safety first. And then you can try it out with a smaller project and maybe you won't need it.
Thank you. That was the only
course.
question for now.
Yeah, that's okay. I was wondering if I could engrave and answer, but I wanted to make sure you could hear me. I will say I don't recommend, if you're working on a big project that is going to be dusty, definitely wear a mask. Definitely wear safety goggles, especially if you're like me and you tend to, I'm not doing it now because we're filming, but you tend to kind of put your face close to your projects. I tend to do that sometimes. So in those cases, I will definitely wear safety goggles, wear a mask. I'm just kind of protect myself. All right, that's looking pretty good. Oh, here's a good example. So don't know if you can see it. You can kind of see the lines. So I made a line and then I got kind of excited, and then I just let the customizer bounce around. So you can see it just kind of made multiple lines. That's okay. That's going to happen. So I'm just going to try to clean that up as best I can. And that's one of the things about engraving and customizing something. Like, it's handmade. It's not AI generated. So it is going to be unique and imperfect, and that's kind of the perfect part about it. But even now, on the second word, I'm going a little bit faster because I'm used to the size of the bit, I'm used to the speed, the pressure, like all of it is just kind of clicking in my head. So I don't have to think too much. I'm not as anxious as I was earlier. I'm kind of comfortable with the tool. Almost. All right, let's see how this works. Dust it off a little bit. All right, so now you can see the engraving a lot better than our first pass. And if we wanted to kind of get more detailed, I could switch back to the smaller bit and then just kind of clean up the edges here. But for the most part, this is it. Yes?
We have another question. Please explain shading with flame tip and filling in with a square tip.
Ooh, okay. I have for sure used the square tip to kind of dig a little bit more into the design. I'm gonna try, actually, you know what? We're gonna use a second one here. We'll put the ball bit back. So with the square one, especially with like ceramic or material that's harder to engrave, like glass is pretty easy and metal is pretty easy. But let's say you have, this is supposed to be glass, but there's this huge coating because it's a candle. It was very, very challenging. And you can see with kind of like you can see there's a ball bit because it was so hard to kind of dig in. So if I were to do this project again, I'd do the first pass with the ball bit, and then with the square bit, just kind of dig into the grooves, if that makes sense. Honestly, I don't know if that's how you're supposed to use this, but that's how I use it. So that's how I experimented and felt like it worked for me. So I would just take it and then just kind of deepen the grooves. So we can try it with this one. Not quite sure how it's going to turn out, but trial and error. So I'm going to go back to one, and then we'll clean up. We'll clean up this L. So I'm going to go back in. Ooh. Oh, I see. So, I should have used this from the beginning. For some reason, this is creating much smoother lines in the ball bit. So I'm just going to do this L to do really jaggedy. Actually, I really like this. So I don't know if you can tell the difference, but because of the square tip, it just, and I'm engraving this way, it just kind of flattens out the whole line. And it creates like a thicker, in lettering, we call it monoline, like a thicker, evenly sized engraving line. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm going to show you maybe here with the E. It's a little bit jaggedy there. So let's try it with the E. I'm so glad you asked this question because I honestly wouldn't have used this tip for glass, but I kind of love it. So wipe that off. Hard to tell over the phone with the camera, but it's nice and thicker. I could probably achieve the same effect if maybe I used like a bigger ball bit, right? But there's something about that square tip that just kind of made that easier. So I hope that was helpful. And this is my design. Oopsies. I feel like one of those
Beautiful.
influencers. This is my design. So now I can throw all my loose change in here and save up for a travel. Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
I hope this was helpful. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time here. We love to see you. We will see you again. I tried
Yeah.
something freehand. I will post it in the group. I didn't have a jar, so I did it on a wine. It
Oh,
doesn't look
wine
that good.
bottles are,
But
it's
I mean,
such a good idea. Yeah, that's a great like hosting gift idea. I love it. You can send it to
yeah,
me.
when I give wines to people, I always engrave something, even a small quote or something, and people really love it. They keep it. They say like, "Oh, I want to drink in some special date or special time. I don't want to just drink it now. Drink it now." So
I love
it makes it
that.
very special.
That's
Thank you,
awesome.
everybody, and see you
Yes,
next time.
thank you so much. Yay.